Hello once again. We apologize for that audio glitch. Here's what's coming up on Network Africa. Renewed clashes in Sudan that throws local residents into dire humanitarian situation. UN striving to relocate Sudanese refugees to safer areas in Chad before the monsoon season. And explosions as Ugandan forces battle militants in Somalia. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. Let's recap in Sudan, where fresh clashes between the military factions erupted in the capital, Khartoum, 2 nights ago, threatening to derail the fragile week-long ceasefire agreement reached between the two warring parties. The state broadcaster building in Omdurman was caught in gunfire during hostilities yesterday. Under the truce, the parties agreed to facilitate the delivery and distribution of humanitarian assistance and restore essential services. Both sides have issued statements accusing each other of violating the ceasefire and reiterating that they will continue to abide by the agreement. Residents who remain in the city have been suffering water and electricity cuts, as well as a lack of medical services and supplies. The conflict is also resulting in an increased amount of waste, which is taking an environmental toll and posing a health risk to citizens. And the U.S. State Department is warning that a ceasefire monitoring mechanism on Sudan has detected possible breaches of the truce agreement, including observed use of artillery, military aircraft, and drones. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller told reporters that the United States has continued private engagement with both sides of the conflict, adding that Washington will not hesitate to use all tools available to hold the parties accountable.
So the ceasefire monitoring mechanism that we put in place with the agreement that was signed over the weekend detected possible breaches of the agreement on May 24th. These included observed use of artillery and military aircraft and drones, credible reports of airstrikes, sustained fighting in the heart of the Khartoum industrial area, as well as clashes in Zalingi in central Darfur. So we have continued to see violations of the ceasefire. We have continued private engagement with both sides through the Ceasefire Monitoring and Coordination Committee. We are monitoring the conflict, including compliance with the terms of the ceasefire.
Meanwhile, the United Nations Refugee Agency is racing against time to relocate thousands of refugees in the border areas of Chad to safer areas before the onset of the rainy season, as more people continue to flee neighboring Sudan. At Gungor, one of the several places along the Chad-Sudan border where refugees have been gathering, workers from the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees are putting refugees in groups of family units. At the Gaga refugee camp, it remains difficult for the UNHCR to know exactly how many refugees are here due to the camp's proximity to the Sudanese border, which means new refugees arrive daily. The UNHCR has set a daily target of relocating 500 people to the Gaga camp, but not everyone is willing to leave the area, with many hanging back because their family members have not yet managed to cross into Chad.
When we are doing the registration, we take note of family members who are still in Sudan, who are not yet in Chad, because as long as they are not in Chad, UNHCR doesn't have any responsibility, because they are not refugees. They are still in the country in Chad. But we take mention of that in case they come, and during the registration of these newcomers, we also ensure that we try to understand exactly where is the family members, or where are the other family members, a mosquito net, a blanket, a jerry can, a kitchen set, a solar lamp, to ensure that they start life afresh in dignity.
We deploy in midwives, we make sure that they have dignity kits, but we're making sure that they have emergency reproductive health kits so that we can address their needs.
Well, and as South Sudan grapples with multiple challenges, the UN Secretary General's Special Representative and head of UNMISS, Nicholas Haysom, says is urging political leaders to galvanize momentum in peace processes so that free, fair and credible elections can be held on time. Speaking at a press conference in the capital Juba, the top UN official in the country emphatically outlines the vital need to fully implement the current roadmap, which he says is already behind schedule. For its part, UNMISS as mandated by the UN Security Council, is continuing to protect civilians, ensure security of displaced persons, and establish temporary bases around conflict hotspots.
The constitution-making process, electoral legislation, standing up the necessary institutions and structures, as well as creating the environment to support robust political competition, require tangible measures. And the scale of importance of what remains to be done does not leave room for inaction. We still see 2023 as a make or break year for this nation if it is to fully implement the peace agreement. I was profoundly alarmed that our human rights team has recorded at least 22 civilians killed in Warrap through extrajudicial executions. The deployment of these courts has enabled justice to be administered to some of the victims of human rights violations and abuses, and just this week, the SSPDF's Yei General Court Martial officially opened at the Yei garrison. We want, as UNMISS, to be part of the solution to the challenges facing South Sudan.
Elsewhere, the militant Al-Shabaab group has carried out an attack on a Ugandan troops base of the African Union Transition Mission ATMIS in Bula Maria district in Lower Shabelle region of Somalia. The attack, which began shortly after morning prayers today, started with a large explosion believed to be an explosives-laden vehicle. Bolo Maria is about 110 kilometers from the capital, Mogadishu. Residents reported that after the big explosion, 2 more explosions occurred in the camp before a fight started between Ugandan troops and the attackers. Al-Shabaab said they captured the camp and killed dozens of ATMIS soldiers, but there has been no independent confirmation of the group's claim. ATMIS says its forces are currently assessing the security situation in the area, but no word has been heard from the Somali government regarding the attack as yet. Ugandan Army spokesperson Felix Kolayigye told Kenya's Daily Nation that the military was probing the attack. He blamed foreign insurgents for the raid without giving further details. Joining us online on the program is the VOA's correspondent Halima Atumani. Halima is in Kampala, Uganda. Hello, Halima. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Joke. Thank you for having me.
So please give us some background as to what is happening right now and how Ugandan forces came to be in Somalia in the first place.
Well, what we know is that this is not the first time that the Ugandan base has been attacked. But what people need to know is that Uganda was the first to deploy troops under the AMISOM, the African Union mission into Somalia. That was way back in March 2007. And the Ugandan contingent remains the largest contingent in AMISOM. It has over 6,200 troops based in what they call Sector 1, which comprises of Banadir, Mogadishu, Middle and Lower Shabelle regions, where today's attack actually happened from. So Uganda has been in Somalia for all these years, and of course they've always been there for Uganda, for the main part, also when donors come into Uganda, they always see President Museveni as, the big brother in the region. And one of his efforts is that he shows them that, without Uganda, there is no peace in Somalia. And unfortunately, we've got moments like these where we realize that, Uganda is actually being hit hard, just as it has been done today.
So the perpetrators of the attack have not been confirmed yet, as no group has really come out to say we did this. But what would be the reason for attacking if actually this was done by Al-Shabaab?
Look, we can't say that there's been no group that has come to claim. Actually, if I'm to read for you a statement released by the Al-Shabaab, and they call themselves the Armed Forces Command, of the Al-Shabaab Al-Mujahideen. And in their statement, they go ahead to talk about, the raid that happened this morning at dawn, and they said they raided the ATMIS Ugandan, they are calling the Ugandan soldiers crusaders, based on the outskirts of the town of Bulamario, Islamic Wilaya of Lower Shabelle region. And according to their statement, they say initial reports from the battlefield indicate the death of 137 crusaders, the destruction and seizure of military vehicles, and the capture of the base's cache of weapons and ammunition. And this is what the Al-Shabaab has come up to claim. So we now know, or that's all we know, that one group has come up, Al-Shabaab has come up to claim that they are the ones who attacked the Ugandan base. But so far, that's all we know. We cannot confirm these allegations at the moment because ATMIS has not come out to say anything. But I guess I'll let you ask the next question.
Right. So are there others with a grouse against Somalia besides the Al-Shabaab group?
I think Somalia has many groups, but we know that the major group has been the Al-Shabaab, and we cannot. They've tried to control. I think the trade in Somalia. They've tried to show that they are the ones who have the might to bring back peace in their own region. They can take control of their own region. So it's a bit complicated for us to know who else would have a hand in an attack. But we know that most of the attacks previously that have happened against any force, especially Uganda, because now we know that countries like Burundi have soldiers have deployed also in Somalia. But for now, we know that most of the attacks are always done by the Al-Shabaab.
And have you heard anything from the Ugandan government concerning that attack this morning?
Unfortunately, when it comes to military issues, our government always takes time, to come up and make a statement. The UPDF spokesperson, Brigadier Felix Flyje, actually did post a tweet, and he was just literally retweeting what ATMIS had stated in their statement, telling us that, informing us about the attack, that the attack has happened, and they're doing everything possible to bring the situation back in control, and they're actually trying to fight the attackers. So aside from that, there's really nothing new. I did text also the Deputy Army spokesperson, Colonel Deo Akiki, who also told me they do not have as much information at the time. They are investigating and will give us updates. Probably tomorrow, we're still not sure, but yeah, we do. We don't have as much details as we would like, yes.
Yeah, we do look forward to those updates, and we'll check in with you on that. Halima, thank you so much for your time and giving us a broader outlook on that situation today.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back. The United States has imposed sanctions on a Russian man whom it says is the leader of the Wagner mercenary group's operation in Mali. The U.S. Treasury said Ivan Maslov was a key figure in Wagner's global activities. It adds that Wagner may be using its presence in Mali to conceal efforts to acquire military weapons and equipment for the war against Ukraine. It also accused the Russian group of supplying anti-aircraft missiles to the rapid support forces in Sudan. The group, which has been helping Mali's military government fight Islamist insurgents, was designated as a transnational criminal organization earlier this year by the U.S. government. Let's take a look at some health issues now. Data on prostate cancer in 4 countries and in Nigeria, but in Lagos alone, the prevalence is 10 times than in Europe, and the prognosis is poor. That's according to consultant urological and robotic surgeon Professor Kingsley Ekweme. That's why it's remarkable that Reddington Hospital in Lagos is celebrating its 50th successful prostate removal using modern, minimally invasive methods. With the professor here in Lagos, our correspondent Mary Alale Yusuf reports.
Prostate cancer is the second most commonly occurring cancer in men, second only to skin cancer, and the 4th most common cancer overall. There were more than 1.4 million new cases of prostate cancer globally in 2020. Surgeries available, often with poor outcomes, not just because of late health-seeking habits, but also due to the current method of open surgery. Here in Victoria Island, Reddington Hospital employs a little-known procedure in Nigeria called laparoscopic prostatectomy, with impressive results. Today, the hospital celebrates its 50th such minimally invasive operation.
And why is this significant? Because we've had 50 such cases with 100% success rate.
Laparoscopic prostatectomy is just one of the breakthrough procedures Reddington Hospital is renowned for.
At the Reddington, we are pushing the barriers. There are many, many more of these services that we're looking at, be it in cardiology, urology, neurology, even in oncology.
The man of the moment, Professor Kingsley Ekweme, explains how his surgeries go and the intent of such operations.
The number one goal is to cure cancer, so the man doesn't die. Secondly, you want to do it so he regains his function.
People who have come out of surgery are glad they were introduced to Reddington and Professor Ekweme.
I had the surgery about 10 months ago. The trauma before then, I wish I don't recall it. But today, I'm happy.
Mr. Alozie describes his symptoms before surgery.
The major symptoms are difficulty passing urine. That is, you urinate more times in the course of the night, more than usual. Sometimes 7, sometimes 10, depending on the volume of water you are taking before bedtime, and some funny pains.
For the rate of success, Professor Ekweme is ready with an assessment.
And so with minimally invasive surgery like this, laparoscopic prostatectomy, and the technique that we have perfected over the years and modified to be able to perform this operation and allow men to recover their continence very quickly. In fact, all the men that have operated in this Lagos, of these 50 men, nobody has continence issue. Everybody is dry, and that is because of the technique and the ability to handle the tissues with ×3 magnification of the lens. You can have laparoscopic radical prostatectomy with your nerves spared and your functions recovered.
He stresses that one shouldn't wait for symptoms, at which time it is usually too late, but do the relevant tests to keep tabs on their prostate-specific antigen, or PSA value, which may indicate the presence of cancer. Apart from making this keyhole surgery available to the public, Reddington Hospital plans to train doctors under Professor Ekweme in the procedure, which will bring functional hope to many men. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
Away from health, on Africa Day, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa led the celebration in Johannesburg under the theme Deepening the AU's Vision for Unity, Prosperity and Modernity for a Better Africa and a better world. President Ramaphosa thanked the continent's forebearers for having forged an independent, free Africa, even though a lot still needs to be done to combat extremism, corruption, and conflicts. Representatives from different countries showcase their country's unique fashion, arts, and culture. Africa Day is observed on the 25th of May every year to commemorate Africa's independence, freedom, and liberation from colonialism. And finally, the Lagos Startup Expo was an opportunity for tech enthusiasts and startups to showcase their innovations, as well as the potential of Nigeria's tech sector, by highlighting three key concepts, which are innovation, collaboration, and growth. The expo provided a platform for startups and budding entrepreneurs to network and learn in a bid to drive the growth of the ecosystem. Here's the report.
A convergence of startups, innovators, tech enthusiasts, and investors to foster innovation as well as the growth of Nigeria's tech industry.
Okay.
Tech events serve as a melting pot of different ideas and a platform for collaboration, which is why TechPoint Africa brings them all together to showcase their solutions and connect. Through critical conversations and insightful workshop sessions, participants are exposed to a wealth of ideas as they learn about the latest industry trends.
Nigerians require an alternative solution for cross-border transactions, and the first one would be bank limitations for international payments. So I know even at least one person here would have tried to make payments on their phone using their debit card and then will be blocked for some reason, okay? So whether it is the bank limit or the amount that you can't spend, like some bank cards have like $100 limit on them. So what if you now want to make purchases worth $101? All right, so seemingly easy purchases such as paying for apps on App Store or your subscription becomes so difficult.
The expo also served as a means to help budding startups and entrepreneurs take their businesses to the next level. And the chief servant at TechPoint Africa says they fulfilled that objective.
By bringing tech enthusiasts, potential customers together in one place and gathering all the startups and businesses in one place, we provide the opportunity to, grow that market, engage with your audience, generate leads, also collaborate, because startups can also collaborate with each other. Another challenge they have is always, being able to grow, and sometimes they need partnerships to be able to do this.
It was a day of innovation, collaboration, and growth, especially for those passionate about the rise of the ecosystem.
In the last year or year and a half, there has been a slowdown in global funding. And when I say global funding, I mean private equity and venture capital. But what's happened is that there's now a flight to fundamentals. Basically, only the strong survive. So companies who would deliver consistently on the fundamentals, strong unit economics, show strong growth, and show that they can be resilient in the face of cyclicalities, those companies are the companies that will survive in the coming few years, because there's a liquidity crunch around the world, not just for Nigeria, in Africa, and with global investors. So that's what it looks like. And the companies who are going to raise funding going forward have to be more resilient than the ones we've seen before.
The Lagos Startup Expo is a demonstration of the impressive progress of the tech sector and how those passionate about its success stay committed to nurturing entrepreneurs, fostering innovation, and inspiring creativity.
Well, that's it on Network Africa. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.